Hi there, and welcome to this video, which is going to be a very simple tutorial on how to record a tune into Ableton Live. And I'm going to be playing my violin, and I'm going to play a line of music into Ableton so that you can see how to set it up, how to record it, and how it works. I'd like to say that it is a very basic video, and it's for people really who don't have an awful lot of technical knowledge about this kind of thing, but who have a bit and want to have a go. So we're all set up here. I've got everything plugged in, everything's ready, and so we're just going to go over to Ableton now, and I'm going to show you how to set up the recording. So here we are on this screen, the Ableton screen, and this is not the screen we're going to use eventually, but there's a few things I need to tell you about first. If this is the very first time that you've ever gone on to Ableton and you're about to start using it and you've got everything plugged in, there's one or two things you need to know. And I'm not going to spend ages explaining why you need to know these things, but I'm just going to tell you how to change them and make sure that everything's okay. So the first thing you need to know is that you need to check that your interface is that the software knows that your interface is the one that's going to be the input and output for this music. So you do that by, you can check that by going to Options, Preferences, and here you'll see at the top, driver type, you should have ASIO put in here. You click down on the menu and you make sure you've got ASIO here. Audio device. Now if you've got an interface plugged into your PC, it should come up on here. Mine is the Roland Rubix, so I'm going to click on that. And this is the sample rate. This is my Ableton version is a little bit basic. This is the Live 10 intro. If you have 11 or the suite, there's loads more options. But if you're doing something quite basic, the sample rate you want is 44/100. So that's all fine. And we need to check what's called the buffer settings, because there's something called latency, which is very difficult when you start recording in instruments, because that's when you record something in time and then you hear it late when it plays back, and it's really difficult to get that right. And one of the things that can help is the buffer settings. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure you can find out if you Google it. So I just know that that's important. So if you click on hardware setup, you get this Rubik, the control panel for your interface comes up, and the sample rate is the same, so that's good. We need to make sure that that's the same. And we click on buffer settings, and I've got it set on 6. The highest is 7. I've got it on 6, which is working pretty well right now, so just that would be a good place to set it. And also when you're thinking about the latency, if you click on options, there's two boxes you should check here. Delay compensation and reduced latency when monitoring. You should have those both ticked, because that'll help with that. It doesn't solve the problem, but it helps. So like I said, when we put Ableton on and we switch it on and it comes up, it opens up, and it opens up onto this screen here, and this is the session view of Ableton. And this view, to use this one, is more if you were doing some kind of songwriting or DJing or just playing in samples and a bit of jamming, that kind of thing. It's not really the kind of thing that we're going to use. There are one or two things that we can do from this screen that I will show you, but we're not going to use this one. So we go up to these two things here. See this one that's highlighted? This screen is the vertical screen, and then we click to this one that has the horizontal, and this is the view we're going to use, and this is called arrangement view. And this is when you the normal things, you record tracks, multi-tracking, putting things on top of each other, tracks, recording and editing music that we're going to be playing in. So this is the one we're going to use, the arrangement view. And here you see these are the tracks that are going to be coming across. It's going to come horizontally across here, and that's where the music's going to start playing, and it's going to go across here. Now we've got these 4 sort of already set up tracks here. It always starts with these. There's 2 MIDI tracks and 2 audio tracks here. Now MIDI tracks are a MIDI track is something that's for like something that plugs straight into the interface and comes straight through, a bit like a keyboard, a MIDI keyboard that's going to send a sort of electronic signal in, or like if you've got an electric guitar plugged straight in into the interface. And that's not really what we're doing, because what we're going to do, we're going to play something, a live instrument, into a microphone. So that is an audio track. So we don't need these MIDI tracks here. So we can go onto this box, right click and click cut, and again, and at the moment we only need one audio track because we're only going to record one thing in straight away. So we've got one audio track here that's ready. Now I think I said to you that we have one microphone and it's plugged into the first channel on the interface. So here it says 2. Now we aren't plugged into channel 2, we're plugged into channel 1. So you click on this and you click 1. So that's going to be, so we've lined up the channel. It knows that we're going to be playing into channel 1. These 3 things here, I always have this switched off. If you click on auto, it's going to record it. You're going to be playing in and you're going to be hearing what you're playing at the same time, which is really difficult, and I've never used that because it's a bit of a nightmare for live playing. So I always have this switched off. So just click off. This shows that this is the track. It's track 1. This is the volume, up and down. If you click the arrow, it takes it up and down. It's always set to 0, and I've learned that I always have it set to a minus number. Because if it's too loud, because even on 0 it can be too loud, and you haven't got very far to go there. If you set on a minus number, you can move up and down a long way, and it goes on forever. So I would set it to about -2, something like that. Anyway, yep. And this one here, if you've got lots of tracks going on and you just want to listen to this one, you can click the blue, which means solo, so it'll only play this track back. But when you set up to record and you're about to record, you must arm this track. It must know, you must tell it that this is the track you want to record into, and to do that you press this button here. So this has to be red. If you're going to play into track 1, you have to have track 1 armed, so you have to press the red button. So you're ready to go. You're getting ready to play. So what else do we need to know? Well, you're going to play a piece of music, clearly, and you're going to have to tell it what time signature the piece of music is in. If you want to have a click track, and if you want to play with other instruments, you need to tell it. Now I'm going to play in a version of Loch Lomond, the folk song. Now Loch Lomond is clearly in 4/4, so we've got 4/4 here, but if it was in 3, you just click on it and you can drag it up and down, and then it will change the time. It could be 5 or 6, you can change it, but it's in 4/4, so we're going to stick with that. What speed are we going to play it? Because if we want a click track, we need the speed. Now the metronome mark I'd put on this was 100. So this is the speed, this is the beats per minute. So we click on that and we can drag it up and down. So we've just dragged it down to 100. Now I should say at this point, there's loads of shortcuts for keys, obviously, for Ableton. You can do things, there's shortcuts for all the, all this kind of thing. And I know 1 or 2 shortcuts, but I don't know that many. But I think if you go to the manual, you'll find lots and lots of shortcuts. So there must be, things you could do this with the keys, but I'm just showing you the most basic way to do it. So, and when you play, especially if you play with other instruments, you're going to have a click track. So this here is what's called the metronome, and this is the click track here, these 2 dots here. So if you click on this, the click track is now kind of on, and if you click on this arrow, you can decide if you want to count in, so like you want 1 bar of click and then you start playing, or 2 bars. You can change the sound of it, and if you only want the click to play while you're recording, so you don't want it to play while you're listening back, then you click that, and now it's ready. It'll only play while you're recording, so it'll click when it starts and it will carry on going. And if I click play, then you can hear it. You can change the type of. So there's one other thing that's quite important about the click track. Well, I think it's important, is that you might find when you're recording that if you're recording a quiet piece, that you can actually hear the click track on the recording, because sometimes if the click track is too loud, it can actually, you know, come across as an audio, and you can, and the, you know, the microphone picks the sound up and it ends up on the recording. So what I normally do is I try and turn it down a little bit at the beginning. If you're playing a loud piece, then you're probably not going to hear it. But if there's, like, say, bars, empty bars, and you're just playing a violin part and there's some empty bars, I mean, you could edit them out at the end, but it's just, sometimes it's just easier to have the click track a bit quieter. So what I do is I go back to session view. So you go over here and you click this one with the vertical lights on it, and down here there's this thing called solo with the blue, and when you come on, it's normally set to something like this, or, you know, about 4 o'clock, and I normally just turn it up a little bit to about 1 o'clock. So you sort of you click you hover over it, click the mouse and move it and drag it up a little bit. So that should probably solve that problem of it being too loud. And I guess it's quite important to know which are the on and off buttons, really. So this one here that goes green, this is the on button. This is the playback button. So if you've recorded something and you want to listen to it, you press that, then you press that to stop it. You can also use the space bar. So I'm just clicking the space bar here and it starts, and then click it off. If you're actually doing your recording and you're recording and you need to stop the recording, you can stop it by clicking the space bar. But to switch on the recording, you press this round button here that goes red, and then we can hear the sound of the click track starting, and so we know it's started, and you can see it starting to move across. Okay, so I've got my violin here, I've got my headphones, so I'm going to be putting my headphones on, and on one ear only, so that I can hear myself play. But of course it has to be in the headphones, because you can't play it with the speakers on, because otherwise it'll record the click, because you'll hear it and it'll record it. So the other thing I wanted to say right now before I started is how important it is to play with the click. I may have mentioned this already, but you have to play exactly with the click. If you're playing a multi-tracking thing, so you're playing along with another part, don't listen to the other part, because it has to be exactly in time. Otherwise you'll get, because I mentioned this, the problem with latency, so it can sound behind. So you have to play exactly with the click. Very, very important. And of course you've set the click track to start a number of bars before you play. Now, I didn't mention this before, but this is quite important. If you decide you're going to play from the other side of the room, then if it's just you doing it, then you're going to have to come over and start the recording. So you might want to consider, you know, having 4 bars in, especially if you're a cellist and you're going to be sitting down getting your cello out, so you're going to need some time. If you're just doing the first recording, that's okay, because you can edit out the silence and bring it back to the beginning. But if you're actually playing with another part, you're going to have to start in exactly the right place. So you need to bear that in mind when you decide how many beats you need in. And also it's quite important at the end of the recording, if you're going to be coming over and switching it off, that you leave a bit of silence. So you finish it and you stop, leave a bit of silence before you then switch it off. Because if you finish and then immediately try and rush over and switch it off, it's going to be quite hard to edit that sound out. And it's amazing how when you finish a note, the vibrations from that note can carry on for quite a long time, and it might ruin the end of the recording if you just make noise and think, well, I can edit that out, it's fine, because silence is not the same as the sound of an instrument dying away, and that can last actually quite a long time. So those are 3 things to bear in mind. So I've got my headphones on, I'm ready to go, and now I'm going to be pressing record and playing the piece. So you've recorded your track, and here it is on the line on this top audio track here. So this is Loch Lomond here, and some of you might be thinking that no one ever plays Loch Lomond that fast, but I do. So it was a fast version of Loch Lomond. So yeah, so we'd like, it would be nice to listen to it, wouldn't it? So we click at the start here, so it goes white at the start, and press play. There it is. And if you wanted for some reason to listen to that with the click to see how in time it is, you could click the arrow here and take off this thing here, enable while recording, and then you can listen to it with the click. And you might have noticed there that it's slightly behind the click, and that's what happens. I probably could have been a little bit sharper with the tempo there, but it's pretty good. And the thing is, you can do all kinds of editing with this track. You can do all sorts of things. You can tune it, fine tune it, or you can what's called warp it. So you could get it more. You can nudge it and get it more in time. But if you want to, one of the things you'll see is that it's really tiny. It's very small and it's all very bunched together. If you go to this top bar here, you'll see there's a magnifying glass icon thing. If you drag that down, then the track expands. You have to have your right hand in the right place on the mouse mat. Yeah, so now the track's expanded, so you can see in more detail if you wanted to pick out notes and tune them. I'm not going to show you how to do all those things now because that's basically quite complicated and a whole nother video really. But I think one of the most important things you want to do almost straight away is to save it. And what it'll do is it'll save it as an Ableton project. And to save it, you click on File. I mean, I have already saved it, but I'm going to show you how to do Save Live Set As. And then you can just save it and it saves it there. And now you've got it saved, and that's quite important because, you know, you don't want to do all this work and then, you know, and you do have to keep saving it as well. There probably is a keyboard shortcut for saving it, but I don't know what it is. I should know what it is, but I don't. So, yes, so you heard how loud it was. It's not massively loud, this. Obviously you can turn it up and down here. Or you can turn it just up and down on your interface. But there's another way, which is where you start doing the editing. When you click, your hand goes onto the top, this box at the top here, and here's your track. And you can expand this as much as you like, and it's quite interesting because you actually almost get to see the sound waves if you make it expanded enough. And this here, this is the volume here. You see decibels. You can also turn it up, and it widens. But you don't want it too big because then it starts to clip, and that's a whole nother thing as well. But that's to do with the sound kind of distorting slightly. So, and there's a thing here called detune. This is where you do fine tuning. That's you can tune it up from there, and you can tune odd notes in and out. But basically that's a whole nother long video. And of course, there's things like you might want to put reverb on the track, and there's an arrow here, and if you click on this, this opens up, and this is all the instruments, the samples, effects, sounds, drums, everything, all the things that Ableton has, which is a lot of things on here. If you click on audio effects, you can click on reverb, you can start playing the track, and you could so that wasn't reverb. You drag it across. So that's just, I'm just showing you some things that you could do here, but I'll have to show you in detail how you do that another time if you are interested. So I'm going to end this video here now, because we've done what we said we were going to do. I might make another video putting another part with that, which is where the editing comes in, because then you have to try and get them together. If anyone's interested in finding out any more things about this, I will do another video, and if you've got any questions, you can just leave them in the comments below, and I'll try and get back to you. So I'm going to leave it like this now. I've saved this track, so we'll save it for another day if we need it. And thank you very much for watching, and I really hope that you found that interesting.